these 3 recipes you're going to want to make. If you're new here, I'm Amy. I'm a wife and a mom to a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old. And I love to share what I'm cooking over here for my family. And these 3 recipes are so quick. They take 30 minutes or less. They're just full of flavor and they're unique and easy. So I'm really excited to share them with you. I have taken a bit of a break from YouTube if you have been here before, and I'm back. I'm excited to be back. I've had kind of a nice needed break, but let's go ahead and get cooking. This first recipe is a taco skillet. We love this. It takes 15 minutes. It's so quick, and it could be great for just one person or your family or like a large group of people. You could kind of bulk it up with more beans or more veggies, but I'm really excited to share this one. It's a taco skillet, a 1-pan meal. Let's go ahead and make it. Here's what I've got going for dinner tonight. A really simple meal. I have the ground beef in the fridge. I'll take that out. I just have some cheese. I'm just going to use whatever is left. Some seasonings and a salsa. I also have some black beans that I cooked and froze. And then some corn. And I'm also going to use some rice that's currently in the freezer. First, I'm going to go ahead and cook up the ground beef. Once it's almost fully cooked, I'm going to add seasonings. So I'm going to add in some ground cumin, as well as some chili powder, garlic powder, and salt. You could probably, instead of using these individual spices, just add like maybe a tablespoon or 2 of taco seasoning, because you're also going to add in that entire jar of salsa to give it additional flavor and just some liquid so that it can be really flavorful and delicious. But I'm going to go ahead and add in the corn. I just added in frozen, and the black beans that are almost all the way thawed. I'm going to add in that jar of salsa. We really love the Frontera salsa, the mild version, but I really like the medium too, but my kids wouldn't eat that. So I'm just going to go ahead and give it a really good stir. I microwaved some rice, so I'm going to add that in and give it a stir again. And the only other thing that I need to do is add some cheese on top. I do always like to taste my food to make sure it has just the right amount of seasoning. And I realized that I accidentally bought medium salsa instead of mild. So added a little bit of honey, just like a teaspoon or 2, and then mixed that in. Normally I would not add the honey, but this is actually a 1 skillet meal. So you can just go ahead and add the cheese, cover it, and it is completely ready to go. This is a great recipe for a large group of people. I have, once the ground beef was cooked, transferred it to 9x13 and added the remaining ingredients and mixed it up and baked it in the oven that way. But this is how we serve it. It's so, so good. Next, I'm making a Tuscan soup. So it has like kale, sun-dried tomatoes, orzo, cream. It's just full of flavor. It's very unique. I've never made a soup like this before, but honestly, we love it. And my kids liked it because I could just give them less of kind of the broth and more of just the pasta. So it's really family friendly as well. So let's go ahead and make that. Let's get started making this soup. So the first thing I did to a pot was I added olive oil so we could saute up some onion and some diced celery. I actually diced the celery a few weeks before and froze it. That way I could use it in something like this. So that was really convenient. I just gave it a stir and I just sauteed this until both of those veggies were nice and soft. Then I went ahead and added seasonings. So first I did garlic, then I did Italian seasoning and salt. I did add a little extra of all 3 of these spices. I did use low sodium chicken broth, so that could have been why it needed more salt, but I do like kind of a lot of flavor, especially in soups. But I stirred this up for just a minute or 2 to get kind of all the spices in there and infused in those veggies. Added sun-dried tomatoes and some white beans. I don't think I've ever used white beans before in a recipe, and I've only used sun-dried tomatoes maybe like once or twice. I haven't liked them before for some reason, but they were so good in this soup. And of course the white beans provided some nice protein since it is like a vegetarian soup. Actually, the original recipe calls for pancetta. I didn't use pancetta, but I added in some chicken broth. You could also use veggie broth. I covered it and cooked it just until the soup came to a boil. That way I could go ahead and add in the pasta. I'm using Orzo. It was the perfect pasta for this soup, nice and small, so you get those kind of easy spoonfuls of soup. And then I went ahead and just cooked it until the Orzo was completely cooked through. Now it's time to add the remaining ingredients. So first I added in some kale. So I did buy like a shredded kale, and I made sure the pieces were really small so that my kids hopefully would eat it. I went ahead and zested some lemon and also added in juice from a lemon, and then added in some heavy cream and made sure all the seasonings were perfect. So this is when I added in kind of additional like garlic, salt, and Italian seasoning. But the lemon added this nice bright flavor. The heavy cream made it nice and creamy. I actually was watching, I think it was Test Kitchen on YouTube, and they said that instead of heavy cream, you could try butter to make it kind of rich and creamy. So that is something to try if you don't have heavy cream, because I usually just buy it for specific recipes. So I'll definitely give that a try at some point. But this soup is so tasty. I'm really excited to make it again. I topped it with some Parmesan, and at this point, you could also top it with some bacon if you'd like. So, so good. It just had a really good depth of flavor. It was bright with the lemon. It was creamy. It had a really great texture. Yummy. The final recipe is so simple. I wasn't sure if I should include it, but I just decided why not? It's full of veggies and protein, and who doesn't like Parmesan and pasta together? So it's just a really tasty, easy dish. Now for dinner, I am getting started on some pasta. So I'm chopping up some broccoli. I have the oven on, I have water on to boil, and the first thing I'm going to do is get the chicken ready to bake. You can just use cooked chicken, make chicken however you'd like. This is just how I made it. I'm just going to roast it in the oven. I did some Montreal steak seasoning, a little bit of butter. In total, this was about like 1.5 tablespoons of butter, and I'm just going to roast it. You could go ahead and look up those directions, but I will include the recipe that I used to roast the chicken below. So I went ahead, cooked some pasta, added in some broccoli for the last 4 minutes of cooking time. I could have done that a little bit later. My broccoli did kind of fall apart, but I actually thought my kids would like that better. So I flipped the chicken when it was halfway through cooking, took out some pasta water so I could save that for later. And then I went ahead, drained the pasta, and added some butter and olive oil. So I added about a teaspoon of olive oil, a teaspoon of butter, and lots of garlic powder just to give it kind of some nice flavor, and of course some salt. Then I poured in some Parmesan cheese, and I just love Parmesan cheese and pasta, but you could definitely leave it out if you don't want it. I went ahead and stirred it, and I added in some of that reserved pasta water. I could have timed it a little bit better, but I had to wait maybe like 5 minutes for the chicken to be ready. And so I did not let the chicken rest like I should have, but I did go ahead, chop that up into bite-sized pieces. I added the chicken in as well as those juices just to get all of the flavor in there. I've never used Montreal steak seasoning on chicken before, but I'd highly recommend it. It provided great, bright, spicy, but not like spicy hot flavor. It was just so good, just such a great depth of flavor. Here you can also see that my broccoli is kind of falling apart. I liked it that way, but if you don't, I cooked it again for 4 minutes while the pasta is cooking, and then it sat for like 5 more minutes. I would just add it for the last like 2 minutes, or use bigger broccoli pieces if that's your preference. And those are the 3 recipes that I'm showing you in this video. We loved all of them, some of our favorites for sure. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please go ahead and give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you did like it. I will be back to posting regularly again, hopefully, and I'm really excited to be sharing with you again. Let me know in the comments what you'd like me to make and some of your favorite recipes, as these are definitely some of our favorites. I'll see you next time. Bye.